Well, hey, Carter, thanks for joining us and talking to the community about the topic of partnerships. So before we jump into each of the stages, can you introduce yourself, kind of some of your background, but also frame up what are we talking about? What does partnership mean?
Absolutely. Thanks again, David. I'm really looking forward to our opportunity today to talk a little bit more. But to get started, I am a partner guy. I work in something called the channel. I've been doing the channel the last 6 of my 8 years. I'm doing a lot of the work in the B2B space. I spent some time working at AWS, predominantly working with partners that were coming and building technologies in the cloud. As you probably heard that buzzword, Apple Cloud, I'm a part of that. Then I also ended up moving over to working at Oracle and helping support companies called system integrators. And those essentially are individuals that have a unique experience and knowledge around building our products. So I've worked through a couple different channels and partnerships, as we call them, in a couple different facets. But, today we're going to kind of roll it back a little bit and talk about partnerships 101 here, where I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. And really it is where two companies, it could be more than two companies, it could be multiple companies, come together on a joint value with a joint or agreed upon objective. So again, it's an exciting opportunity where, again, it is a force multiplier. It will allow you to really capitalize on, not just growing individually, but growing with somebody that can help complement you in such a way to really help you achieve scale. And with a partnership, you can do that.
Well, that sounds exciting. Let's go ahead and jump in.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Now, the next stage of adoption really is a transitional stage, and it's taking us up to what we call sustainability. And so the other end, kind of the graduation point from adoption, is when we hit like our ideal monthly revenue. So we take like the revenue we need to hit over the course of a year, divide that by 12, and go, okay, that's the month that we want to eventually, once we hit sustainability, we want to make that the normal month. But we need to go from, hey, here we are, we have a couple validated sales, to we've hit our ideal month, we've hit that economic milestone. So there's a lot of growth. And this is where I'm really curious, as you talked about, kind of a force factor for multiplying. And like, how does partnerships really play out in this adoption stage where we're trying to bring a lot of growth and do a lot of multiplying?
Well, let me tell you, let's think about it this way. If you could continue to scale without physically growing your business, would you say yes to that? I hope so.
Yeah, because that sounds like a pretty good deal.
It is a pretty good deal. Let's say you could leverage a company that you work together with in a joint partnership sense, and you can use their existing resources to help you scale, and you can do it jointly together. You can do co-marketing. You can, take advantage of their salesforce. You could take advantage of existing infrastructure and things that they might have already, because of the fact that both parties have been able to come to the conclusion that it makes sense for us to move forward together. And they have an existing understanding that, we need your help and we can grow this together. And so they will invest with you. And so it gets the time to value a little bit quicker, because of the fact that you don't necessarily need to have those existing pieces in place, but you have a good story and you have an agreement in place where you can work together and you can capitalize on working with them and through them.
Yeah, no, that's really good. What are are there some other principles or maybe some pitfalls during this kind of high growth process that an entrepreneur or business owner would want to think about related to partnerships?
Well, at this stage of the game, you've already tested it out. I think you've already validated it. Can you expand it? Is it at this point, can you expand the partnership? Does it make sense? Can we go further than where we're going now? You might have a marketing agreement in place where, you could do some joint field events together. They went pretty well. We want to see if maybe we can replicate this. Okay, well, why don't you go do this maybe on search engines, or do it online, or looking to pivoting somewhere else to expand it, especially if it's already showing success and you're seeing the value there from a customer standpoint, and you're growing as well. So I think if you're able to validate it, can you expand it at this stage? And if you can expand it, then you have an ability to really capitalize on forward momentum and really continue to build that customer acquisition strategy, the customer funnel and, additional opportunities for more partnerships. If you can do one and expand upon it, can you do two? Can you do three? Can you do four? And at that point, you'll be in a position, maybe you can look at making a program as well around it, which is traditionally the case with partners and organizations, is they have a program supporting it because they have so many partners coming together and building and jointly together. So that's an opportunity to think about.
Yeah, it is a lot to think about. So in that sense, because during that stage where you're going from okay, I have a validated offer validated by a handful of sales. I've gone from one to few, and now I'm trying to go from few to many. You don't always know at the very beginning, you don't know all the steps you're going to take, all of the ways you're going to get to many. And so in that, there's still some trial and error. There's still some experimenting, more so than trial and error, but really looking and go, okay, this is our hypothesis. Let's go test it. Okay, let's shift, let's adjust as we really try and get to that first economic milestone. How does someone both leverage the power partnerships that you're talking about, but not lock into things that may not be a good fit if some of the assumptions don't play out the way they think they will? How does someone navigate that uncertainty?
Well, remember, let's go back to those business goals and objectives. And if you can start to be very structured and very specific with those goals, and you go through the motions and start to recognize that this isn't adding up, the data isn't there, then it's time to go to the drawing board and think about, do we need to exit this partnership? Do we need to change our assumptions? Are we not looking in the right places right now for what we originally had anticipated? So it is going back, and that's why it's important to have a continuous feedback loop and try testing, how a partnership works, much like you're testing with your audience and your customers. If you're not able to definitively see the results in a certain time frame that you've set out, then it's time to pivot. It's time to look elsewhere, and time to maybe reevaluate how this partnership should have been structured and how you would do a different partnership.
No, that makes sense. Where I love how you're speaking to there needs to be some data for you to evaluate that partnership by. In some ways, there's kind of an opportunity cost aspect that could be maybe helpful of okay, if I had to do this myself, or if I had to hire someone to my team to do this, what would that cost? Mm-hmm. If we didn't do any of the things that they're offering, what would that cost for the rest of the business? Kind of looking at it both ways of if we didn't have this partnership, and so we didn't have this aspect of our business, or if we had to replicate that aspect of our business within it and do it ourselves, what's the costs on either side? Is that some of maybe what you would recommend comparing?
Yeah, absolutely. Think about it. It's opportunity cost. If I did this, then that's going to limit me from doing that. If you can't necessarily do this, then what am I, are you going to pivot over here? So you need to be, again, you're starting to figure things out. And so it's important to really build that profile. But if it's not starting to add up, you're going to have to start to reevaluate. Again, we talked about those assumptions, but reevaluate how I go to market with my partner, how I build a partnership, and how I create something jointly together. So, if we don't do that, then it's going to be a recipe for, unfortunately, you not really being able to capitalize on your true value that you bring and their true value.
No, that's really helpful. Carter, are there what kind of experts do I need? So maybe not necessarily the people I'm directly partnering with, but what kind of experts would I need in connected to my business as I'm trying to figure out partnerships? I imagine there's some legal help that I'd want. There's probably some other business guidance, that I want. But who are the people who are helping me, set up the partnerships or identify good partnerships? Who are the experts that are around that founder to really help them navigate some of this well?
That's a great question. Those are all key components of it, but it's also important to have your partnership be bought in from the whole company. So let's say you have a dozen employees. You need to have your product, you need to have your services team, you need to have your marketing team aligned. If you don't have this collectively lined up together, where you are similar to how you're selling to your customers, speaking the same lingo, you're going to be having an issue trying to communicate that from a partnership standpoint. So that is a key thing that you'll need to do, at least internally. Externally, of course, absolutely. The frameworks, you're going to have to sign, structured agreements. You can think about it in the sense that, we're agreeing to this. We got to make sure that it's fair. It's fair and comparable for both parties. So having a lawyer on hand that can help set up and structure a legitimate relationship is going to be important for you at some point. Granted, there could be some handshakes, but don't want to do that because that could kind of hurt yourself here long term. So you do want to have it formalized and structured there, including certain other marketing experts. I think it's important to have someone that understands partner marketing. What does that mean exactly? It means working with your partner in marketing jointly together, having somebody that can help you with the communications as well. I think those are all critically important for you, especially if you're being funded as well. You're going to have an ecosystem that could be backed by your venture capital firm that might be funding you, or it could be a private equity group, or if it's bootstrap like you might be doing now. They're going to have resources available to you to help you scale as well while you're going through this phase and cycle of growth. So there's a lot of things you're going to need to take in consideration, but a strong lawyer is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate how you also called out that, the alignment within the organization. It's not just the founder going, oh yeah, I connect well with this person at this other company that does a different thing. Let's partner. But going down, because the more your business grows, the more assumptions that you're probably making and the more abstraction that's going on. And so bring that back to your team, and they're like, well, hey, if they do that, then this affects this other thing that you don't have day-to-day exposure to, but the members of your team do. So that, I imagine, that helps. Getting that alignment helps pre-identify some blind spots and maybe some problem points, or just things that you got to work out in that, like you said, that equitable agreement.
And here's the thing as well, David. I think that's one of the more valuable things, because it's going to put you in an uncomfortable position, because your assumptions are going to be tested internally. You want to make sure that those assumptions are ready, because you want your team is invested in the success of this company as well. So they're going to bring things to the table that you might not have been thinking about, but now you're going to have the chance to talk about it and collaborate on, and then kind of come back and be like, okay, cool. Those business objectives, got it. I understand it from the product standpoint, I understand it from the marketing standpoint, the services standpoint, and everything in between. So that right there really does just build that picture, and it reinforces those key components of building a successful partnership, getting that input internally.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense that there is a lot of testing of assumptions that happen in that adoption stage. So let's jump into the next one, because we kind of are even talking about it a little bit here. All right, well, as we've kind of walked through all these different stages, Carter, is there anything you want to kind of way you want to frame up just partnerships in general, some takeaways for our founders, our leaders that are watching this?
Yeah. Spend some time with your team. Really get to know the ideal partner profile. I even have this note right in front of me that even talks about it. It's just like, going back to knowing your business goals, find the right business model, whether it be distribution, whether it be an OEM partnership, maybe it be, franchise, or maybe it's just a co-branded marketing partnership here. So really making sure that you craft that narrative, and that narrative evolves with you as your company evolves. Make sure that you're taking into consideration cultural as well. If the company you're working with doesn't share cultural things that are important for you as an organization, then you could run the risk of having something that really doesn't pan out to being a successful partnership. So I think it's always going back to having those key components locked in, and then finally understanding the motion of sell to, sell with, and sell through. I didn't touch on that too much, but I want to touch on it now. Is you can sell directly to someone with your own resources. You can sell with somebody. And again, that's where you're using their resources to help you sell their product potentially. And you can sell through them. And that's like a marketplace. You can use that pretty easily to think about like Amazon.com and going and using that as a procurement channel to purchase and buy products and have them be sold there. So if you can get that down to a T and understand again that value prop, we talked about that Better Together story, and spend time on it, because it's not easy. It's going to be one of the most challenging things for you to build that out. But if you can get that down to the T, then it's easy to go sell it, because if you can convince somebody else to sell your own product, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, I like that. That's really helpful. I think actually, this has been really helpful, Carter, as you've walked through. I'm sure people may have some other questions, which they can always come, and glad you're part of the community at Fiesta Connect, and so they can come in here and ping you, maybe ask some questions, grab some time. But yeah, thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us, and yeah, kind of walking through what does partnerships look like at each stage of business.
Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it.